sisters, Emmy here and welcome to another Am I the A-hole Reddit post video. Now, the first one is, am I the a-hole for a joke I made about my husband? I, 31 female, married my incredible husband, 33 male, 10 days ago. We just got back from our honeymoon 2 days ago. We went to the Shales for a week. I'm having a bit of a post-honeymoon sadness. It was incredible and I miss it, but beyond that, I'm glad that we're home. Yesterday, my friend, 34 female, ran into my husband at our local supermarket, and she noticed he was not wearing his ring. She immediately phoned me up after they spoke and told me this concerned something was wrong. When I told her I knew and that he wears it on a necklace because he can't stand rings due to sensory issues, she reacted badly, pointing out how he'd worn it for the ceremony and ended up with me explaining that yes, he put up with it for that, but right after it was transferred to a necklace once we were out of the church. My friend then told me he should just put up with it for me, as it's a bad look for him not wanting to wear it. She even pointed out this could be an excuse and he wants to not wear a ring to have an excuse to hit on women and potentially cheat. I won't lie to you all, I laughed at this a lot. My husband is autistic and she knows his idea of flirting is going on a 2-hour-long info dump on D&D. Thank God I love D&D. I then told her that he didn't even know we got together in the first place, as he is clueless with flirting, and I doubted very much I had anything to worry about there. My husband himself always makes the joke that he had no idea how we started dating. For all of you, it's a known thing in our circle of friends that he didn't even know we were dating until 2 months into the relationship. His best friend, who was his best man, made a joke about this during the speech, confirming that he was aware he just got married. My friend got very upset at this and told me that I shouldn't talk about my husband that way, as it's bullying, and how it is really disgusting I'd make fun of his autism by implying no one would want him like that. I got a bit confused by this, as 1 minute she was worried about me and next worried about him, and reminded her he makes the same joke himself, and she told me all the same I shouldn't make that joke. I told her she needed to catch a grip, that it's not bullying and it's just banter. She hung up on me, and when my husband got home I told him everything that happened. He immediately made the same joke as me, bemused her mind would go there when we're very much newlyweds, which had me laughing. Another of our friends reached out to me saying my friend is upset and asked what was going on. When I filled her in, she said maybe I reacted a bit too harshly and our friend clearly was just worried about my husband and I. I don't get it though. Based on my husband's reaction when I told him, I'd assume it's fine. Did I go too far with the joke or telling her to catch a grip? Honestly, and I'm going to be really honest, if your husband is making the same joke that you did and his best man made the same joke at the wedding, then clearly you are not the jerk in this thing. It's literally a joke within your friend group, your friend circle. If your husband isn't upset at making the joke himself, then why would he be upset at you for making the same joke that he's made? Personally, I think your friend's a little bit oversensitive. Thankfully, we have an update. Hi everyone, a little update to the post I made a couple of days ago regarding a friend's reaction to a joke I made about my husband and his inability to tell when someone is flirting with him, and his less than standard flirting style, and how I didn't feel worried that he'd cheat just because he wasn't wearing his wedding ring, which he does, it's just on a necklace, not his finger. So, in the few days since my post, I've reached out to the friend in question to ask exactly what her problem was. Firstly, why she would assume that he was looking to cheat just because he wasn't wearing his ring on his finger, and then why she would jump down my throat for a joke that is so standard in our friend group, it made it into the best man's speech. It took a little prodding. At first she was closed off, and wouldn't go into it with me, insisting her reaction was normal, but after a bit she finally broke down. She is a single mother and her son, 5 male, has recently been diagnosed as autistic. I saw it coming a mile off, to be honest, so that wasn't such a shocker, but I get why her emotions might be all over the place right now. She was crying and admitted how she was worried about her son and the bullying he'd go through for being different, and how she didn't want jokes like that being made about her son one day. I told her, yes, he'd be bullied down the line. Kids are vicious. There's no point in lying or trying to sugarcoat it. But what the joke about my husband was, that was exactly that, a joke. Not bullying, and he finds it hilarious, and one day down the line, her son will have the same kind of jokes with his friends and future partner. I told her all she could do was to be there for her son and support him. After I got home, I told my husband about this, and he suggested we give her his parents' numbers. After he checked this was okay, of course, as perhaps talking to the older people who have been there and done it would help her. We gave her their numbers, and they've apparently been in regular contact. My husband and I are also keeping her son for this weekend to give her a bit of a breather and let her come to terms with her own emotions in regards to this. Thanks everyone for your comments and input to my original post. I thought you'd all like an update. And that is where the penny drops. It turns out she was upset because she just found out her son was autistic. Honestly, I can understand her concern. Bullying is nothing to be happy about. Trust me, I've been there. I've been bullied. Yeah, I can understand why she thought it was mean and bullying. At least she's getting help with her son from parents who have been through it before. I'm just glad your friend has managed to get help, and I'm glad you took her son for the weekend to allow her to come to terms with it. So still, I'm going to say you are not the jerk for this. Emotions were definitely strung really high on this. I'm glad she's got you guys. Am I the a-hole for disclosing my brother's disability to his boyfriend? Let's see, shall we? My brother, 27 male, was in an accident when he was 19. This accident changed everything about his life and the lives of my sister, 22 female, myself, 24 male, and our parents. For years after his accident, both my sister and I became his caregivers. Years have passed and my brother has mostly recovered to the point where he can live on his own and function almost like anybody else. We're also incredibly proud of how far he's come and so happy to see him back to his old self again. This is where the issue started. His new boyfriend, 27 male, is the sweetest, kindest, most upfront person on the face of the planet. He's also very open and honest about his own hardships that he's faced in his life, and is always talking about how honesty is the most vital part of his healing process. When my brother first started seeing him, I figured that he would have already told him about his disability. And yet 3 months later, when I officially meet his new boyfriend, it became blazingly obvious to both my sister and I that he never told his boyfriend. I wanted to talk to his boyfriend right away, but my sister told me not to, that I should let my brother tell his boyfriend in time. That time never seemed to come. Almost a year later, I want to help my brother move into his boyfriend's apartment, and there was no thought or care towards making things accessible for him. And the things his boyfriend was asking him to do was simply things that my sister and I knew weren't possible, all things considered. My brother brushed it all off and delegated those tasks to me and my sister. When my brother and sister left the apartment, I took the opportunity to explain everything to his boyfriend. His boyfriend told me that he is very aware of his disability, but what he knew only scratched the surface. I explained what things my brother might need help with, even though he never asked for it, and I figured it was over. A week ago, my brother called me cussing me out for going behind his back and sharing those details with his boyfriend. I thought I was helping him, figured it was too much for him to explain on his own, and I'd rather sleep at night knowing that the man in bed next to my brother knew how to help him wholly. My brother insisted it wasn't my story to tell, and I get that to an extent, but the story did need to be told. So, am I the a-hole? I am going to say, yes, you are. It was up to your brother to tell his boyfriend, and he did somewhat, but I've got a feeling it's something to do with your brother's pride, that he wants to try to do those things himself, maybe, or recover to the point of he can actually do them before fully going into it and explaining the full thing. He's partially the a-hole for not telling his boyfriend to the full extent. Oh, actually, we have a little bit of an edit. Edit for added context. 1. Yes, there is an aspect of danger and safety that comes into play. If I didn't think it might save his life one day, I wouldn't have told. 2. There is an aspect of his disability that would be almost impossible to hide from a stranger, let alone his partner. So that very visible aspect was the part that his boyfriend knew. 3. My brother has never been ashamed of his disability. That's why I found it so strange. That he kept so much of it hidden from his boyfriend. Ooh. Okay, well, in that retrospective, it's danger to safety. I'm going to say partially the asshole in that case then. And I'm going to say your brother's also partially the asshole. I'm going to say you're both assholes in this. But we do have an update. I was up all last night reading the comments and going over the situation with my girlfriend. This morning, my girlfriend and his boyfriend got the two of us together to talk it all through. They had both been dealing with our separate freakouts for the last week and had already decided to get us together before I had even made my post. She's actually the greatest person on the planet. My brother and I had a long conversation about everything that happened. It started off with him cussing me out and me apologizing. And then we talked about his accident and the years afterwards for the first time. Usually we just talk about sports, or he updates me on what's going on with the fam back home. But we had a real conversation about our feelings. Neither of us talk about that stuff. We were raised to be, quote, real men, and keep those to ourselves. Lucky for us, we both have partners who are very in tune with their own mushy sides. He told me how he felt like I never stopped seeing him the way that I did the night of his accident. And he's right. I think for years I've seen him the way that I saw him that night. I had never really gotten to tell him about what that was like on my end. I had been so caught up in making sure that he was okay that it never really occurred to either of us that I probably wasn't. There are a lot of things you can't unsee. He never knew what it felt like for me to have gone through that and never be able to talk about it to him. He was always a person I came to when I needed someone. I'd call him when I'd fall off my bike, if I was getting picked on in school. I felt like I couldn't talk to him about that night because I figured he didn't want to relive it. Turns out he also really wanted to talk about it with me, but figured I felt the same way. If you can learn from my mistake, learn this. Disability is different for everyone, and it's not something you can really comprehend until it happens to you or a loved one. What makes sense to you in your head may not be the best actual answer, and what works for one person might not work for you. As for the people who called me ableist and infantilizing, we're all doing this for the first time. Nobody is an expert on how to deal with this stuff. It's my first time on the planet as much as it is yours. I know that there's nuance to this stuff, and I'm trying to do better. Also, I told him that I posted it on Reddit for advice, and now he has nicknamed me Reddit Guy. And I have a feeling it's going to stick for a while. Honestly, I am glad that you and your brother finally talked it out. That's something you both needed to get it all off of your chest completely. So I can see where you're both coming from, actually. while you were the a-hole for telling his boyfriend, you did it from a place that was coming from loving and caring for him. You wanted to make sure your brother was well cared for. Just like I would want to make sure my siblings are well cared for when they're in a relationship. I'm glad you two have made up. Alright, we're on to the third and final story. Am I the a-hole for playing Ultimate before a barbecue? I, 26 male, have been dating my girlfriend Jenna, 25 female, not her real name, for about 4 months. It recently gotten to the point where we've started to introduce each other to our respective families, with me bringing her to meet my parents during a visit home 3 weeks ago, and me meeting her brother out at dinner last week. Jenna's family always does a huge Memorial Day weekend barbecue where her parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins all gather together every year. She was hoping to use this opportunity as a way to introduce me to the entire family, and we made plans to go together today. About a month ago, some friends of mine introduced me to Ultimate. They had picked up the sport as a way to get some cardio in while doing something fun. I had never really played before, but it seemed like it could be fun, and I decided to join, loving it immediately. I'm not very good, but I really enjoy it and have been getting together with some folks at my local park who play every Wednesday and Saturday night. On Thursday, Jenna asked me if I wouldn't mind skipping Ultimate on Friday because she was worried I might get injured before the barbecue this weekend. I kind of brushed off her concerns by saying I haven't seen anyone get anything more than a scrape so far, and that she really shouldn't be concerned. Apparently, I must have tempted fate because on Saturday, I was running and trying to intercept a pass when I collided with another player. We knocked heads pretty good, and while I was cleared of anything serious like a concussion or a fracture, his forehead gave me a massive goose egg on my eyebrow that has since turned into a pretty nasty black eye. Jenna met me at the urgent care while I was getting checked out, and as you can expect, she was very concerned until we learned everything was okay, at which point she became upset and frustrated. There were a lot of I told you so's. She started spiraling with worry about introducing me to her entire family while I have a huge black eye. I told her that it shouldn't matter that much and it should only be embarrassing for me, and hopefully it will just be a funny story someday. She got quiet after that and we didn't speak for a little while. She admitted later when we got home that her family can be pretty judgmental and appearances really matter to them. Because of that, she decided she was going to go alone to the barbecue. I wasn't too upset because honestly, my eye is pretty sore, but I still would have liked to meet everybody even with my black eye. I feel bad because she already told her family I was going to come and was really excited to introduce me to everyone. But now she is lying to them all, saying I came down with a stomach bug and couldn't make it. I still sort of feel like she's making too big of a deal about this though. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Okay, well, no. Considering you had already said that so far only scrapes and small cuts were an issue with the game. It's not like you could have predicted that you was gonna headbutt somebody else while trying to go for the frisbee. It's not your fault because you cannot predict what is gonna happen in the future. Yes, she will feel disappointed. The only thing you can do is apologize, but we do have an update. Last week, I, 26 male, asked if I was the a-hole for playing Ultimate Frisbee 2 days before I was supposed to go with my girlfriend, Jenna, 25 female, to her family's Memorial Day barbecue. She was worried I would get injured and asked me not to go, but I assured her it was unlikely. This clearly tempted fate and I ended up colliding with another player, getting a nasty black eye in the process. As a result of my unsightly injury, Jenna, not wanting me to go meet her whole family outside of her brother whom I had previously met with a black eye, went without me and was very upset about doing so. The verdict was not the asshole, but the comments were split. Many agreed it was only a black eye. Yep. and it was ridiculous for Jenna to refuse to let me go after she had previously told her family I was coming. On the other side, many felt I was selfish by playing after Jenna had asked me not to, and that I was insensitive by telling her my eye wasn't a big deal. Despite the verdict, the "you're the a-hole" comments resonated with me, and I felt I needed to apologize to Jenna. I told her that I was sorry that I put her in such a tough situation and didn't realize how important it was to her. I also apologized for dismissing her feelings by not realizing that things that affect me can affect her just as much. Jenna responded with her own apology, saying she felt awful leaving me behind when she knew I was prepared to meet her family even with the shiner. She explained that when her brother introduced his boyfriend to the family, the aunts, uncles and grandparents were extremely critical behind their backs, due largely to his laid-back personality and dressing casually. This escalated and ended up being a point of contention, and now her brother and his now fiancé frequently avoid larger family functions. Jenna explained that, despite their flaws, she loves those people and didn't want to be put in a position where she had to choose them or me. We talked about it and ultimately decided, while those people can wait to meet me until I no longer look like I'm doing some half raccoon cosplay, that I could at least meet her parents and other siblings. We ended up planning to go for dinner 2 days later on Friday night. When I got to dinner, I opened with a joke about needing to wait to see them because I literally couldn't see before, which got some laughs and broke the tension. Jenna's parents seemed to really like me, and we got along well. Her two brothers, who I had not yet met, were very happy to make fun of my eye and debating between two different nicknames. Pandy seems to be the leading candidate, given that I go by Andy, and bear a striking resemblance to a panda at the moment. All in all, things turned out okay. We'll plan to meet her other relatives on the 4th of July. I've promised no ultimate for at least a week before then. Can't wait. And I am so glad that worked out for you. At least you got some laughs from the parents and her brothers. It's obviously it wasn't your fault that you got the black eye, because that sort of stuff happens. You cannot predict the future. You can jinx the future, but you cannot predict it. At least they got a laugh. You apologised, she apologised, and I'm glad you two have talked it through. But yeah, folks, that was more Am I the A-hole? And I'm so glad to have read some of these today. Kind of made my day a little bit better. Anyways, I shall see you next time. Bye!